to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please pray with me. Father, we wish to thank you for all the blessings that you bestow on us each and every day. We sometimes forget all the good we have to be thankful for, as the negative can overwhelm us in many ways. We are thankful for all you do for us. Please help all those in this community, state, country, and in the world who desperately need your guidance and protection. Be with our leaders as they make the critical decisions affecting all of us in extraordinary ways. We would also ask that you be with our men and women of the armed forces as they serve to protect us here at home and abroad. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Kincaid. Mr. Newsom.
Here.
Mr. Riley.
Here.
Mrs. Troop.
Present.
Mrs. Zimmershed.
Here.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to our meeting tonight, March 11th. We're going to do presentations of the Employee of the Month and Friends of Education Awards. And our first one's going to be the Certified Employee of the Month, Vicki Courtney. Come up, please.
Woodlands Elementary School is thrilled that Vicki Courtney is being honored as Ponca City Public Schools Certified Employee of the Month for March 2019. She is very deserving of this award. Mrs. Courtney teaches kindergarten, and she has been at Woodlands longer than any other classroom teacher. She takes special pride in all of her students and celebrates when they are successful. She was one of the first teachers in our building to use flexible seating, in kindergarten even, and her students love the choices that it offers. That is so typical of Vicki because she is always willing to try new ideas and initiatives, finding those special tweaks needed for something new to be successful with her young students. She also takes great pride in the appearance of her classroom, and she works many hours each summer to make sure that everything is color and themed coordinated to her satisfaction for the next school year. It looks great. In addition, Vicki serves on our faculty spirit and building leadership teams. Don't let her gentle demeanor fool you. She loves to have a good time, tell funny stories, and break into song when her favorite country music comes on. Thanks, Mrs. Courtney, for making a difference in the lives of your students. Congratulations on receiving this award.
Thank you. Next one's our Support Employee of the Month, Vicki Bentley, a teacher assistant at Team Pep. Come up.
Vicki Bentley is my right arm at Team Pep. I was new to the program this year, and she has shown me how the program works and completely, and has had my back in everything that I've done at Teen Pep. Vicki comes to work every day with a positive attitude and an eagerness to help our students succeed. And something I haven't put in here, the girls absolutely love her. They confided in her, and I could go on, but the girls absolutely love her. She never has asked if there is a need. She sees it, completes it, and it's done. She provides a helping hand to our neighbors at Wildcat Academy while they are on their lunch duties. She is very compassionate and truly believes in each and every one of our students. She is a very hard worker and deserves this award without question. We are so lucky to have her with us, and we could not do it without her.
Good job. Next one will be our Friends of Education, the Blackwell Dentistries, supported by the Ponca City Public Schools. Come up. They're not here? Okay. Well, we'll do it if they have to come during the meeting. We'll come back up and come back to that. Next item is Lincoln Elementary. Come up.
Okay, we'll get ourselves organized. Because Castle's first.
Don't know matching shirts.
I like their shirts.
These kids are
They're going bigger nowadays. Strong when I was in school. High school.
You want to take pictures?
That's pretty.
Wait till I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, we have 2 kids gone, and so we're frantically finding out whether or not we can do the part. That's what we do. We cover for each other. These kids are part of the Orff Ensemble at Lincoln. In years past, we've practiced after school, but this year, because of the scheduling, Mrs. Hargrave let us go in the morning, so we've been actually meeting 2 mornings a week and trying that experiment of doing that. This group is also part of a bigger choir when we have more kids, and we did that the first semester, and we'll go back to that after spring break. But during this 9 weeks, we've been doing the Orff Festival, and the Orff Festival is put on by the Oklahoma Central Orff Organization, and I'm a past officer in that. Some of you in town may know Katie Shelp. She's a past officer in that too. And Roosevelt and Liberty and Lincoln, we've been sending kids to this for a few years now. Roosevelt has gone longer than anyone. And when we take kids to the Orff Festival, we have another almost 150 kids with us because we have different schools from around the state who come. And so we are a little short on not having that many singers, but we're going to show you what we do there. And each school learns all of the songs. They learn how to sing all of the songs. Then each school is assigned 1 instrumental piece, which they play for the festival, and 1 movement piece. Now, we thought about doing our movement piece, but we didn't have quite enough room. But those of you who like Harry Belafonte would have loved our song because we were doing a Harry Belafonte piece. But we are going to do 3 of the songs that we did at the festival. The first one is called Ifka's Castle, which is an old Scandinavian piece. And if you can imagine hiking and seeing interesting things on your hike. Okay. Cheyenne, you don't play that part. You can't do that. Okay, Cheyenne, you do soprano.
It is so cute.
Okay, do the alto. The joys of missing children. Okay, this pretty planet. I should explain the bar thing. These are orc instruments that are barred instruments. They come from an African instrument. It'd be helpful I turn this on. Okay, they come from an African instrument, and Carl Orff, when he was developing the method, was given a gift of this African instrument and took it to a music maker, an instrument maker, and they created these. And the convenience for the children is we can take off bars that they don't play, which makes it easier for them to learn to do it. What's really fun is when they reach a point where they go, I don't need to take off any bars today, and they can play it. But when they're first learning, it's really nice for them to be able to do that. So that's why you're seeing some kids take bars off to make adjustments so it's easier to play. The song we're going to do is called This Pretty Planet.
This pretty planet spinning through space, your garden, your harbor, your holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giant, spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light. You're still to be playing. F, F, G, G, C, C, F, F. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2. This pretty planet swimming through space, your garden, your harbor, your holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giant, spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light. All through the night, safe till the morning light. All through the night, safe till the morning light.
The strange thing is that's the piece they played at festival, and they played it a whole lot better. I think this whole room in here is like intimidating them, and when they found out they were going to be filmed, they were like, we're going to be filmed? It's kind of scary sometimes, but they sing that song really nicely. And I wish you could have heard 150 elementary kids from across the state singing that song in a big concert hall was really amazing. And it's a beautiful piece. But the last one we're going to do, some of you may go, I've heard that song. It is a not as well-known lullaby that many parents do know. So if you recognize it, Don't be surprised. I'm going to play for this one, so they're going to all focus on singing. And it's called I See the Moon and the Moon Sees Me.
I see the moon and the moon sees me down through the leaves of the old oak tree. I know a light that shines on me, shines on the ones I love. Over the mountains and over the seas, back where my heart is longing to be. I know a light that shines on me, shines on the ones I love. I see the stars and the stars see me down through the leaves of the old oak tree. I know a star that shines on me, shines on the ones I love. Over the mountains and over the seas, back where my heart is longing to be. I know a star that shines on me, shines on the ones I love.
See, they got more comfortable. Thank you very much for having us. And I'm going to ask my kids if you guys could help take these instruments out to the hallway so that I can get them into my car. And thank you very much for having us here tonight.
Thank you, students. Thanks, Mrs. Maggie.
I got to say, the ones that got the awards tonight, you might want to go out and probably take your picture before you guys leave.
Do you want to have her do
like
the
your
Blackwell
t-shirts.
Dentistry, read it, and then we can just present it to them later?
Nice t-shirts.
They never do so. Okay, sounds good to me.
They can just skip to
We'll
it.
save it.
This teacher.
Her brother is the kid with the glasses. And so
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
How are you doing? How are you doing? Thanks for coming.
Hey, don't forget to vote for David. Vote for David. School board. School board.
Election's coming
April
up.
2nd.
Yeah. Don't forget to vote for it. It'd be great if you did.
Okay.
I'll get a picture up
Yes,
there. I've
ma'am.
seen it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks,
Thank
Hey,
you.
thank
you.
Maybe I should accidentally do that. Well, I seen her tapping. I'm like, here we go.
They did good.
I like when they do something.
Ladies good.
Yes.
What is she? She goes to mooning school.
No, she just goes to Lincoln full-time job.
Where's our auditor?
Well,
It's going to be on the phone, so we'll have to get Brenda up and
you've been here too
do
long.
a phone. We're just going to switch.
Okay. Brenda, you want to come on up and dollar up? We'll go. Oh, we don't have any public comment, so we're clear on that
We
one.
doing that lady from,
Yeah.
Dr. Pam.
We're going to go to the presentations from the Wilson, Dotson, and Associates on their audit report.
She's got another one at 6:30, Pam does, so
Oh, we'll go back to the
take
school
care of ours.
report
Hi, Pam. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Can you hear me okay?
Sort of.
Sort of. Talk loud.
How's this?
I don't think the microphone's on.
Too loud, huh?
No, not too loud.
I'll just be brief since we went over this for the Finance Committee. But I'd like to point out you should have a 3-page handout that you received with each audit report. Did you hand those out, Brenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All that is a standardized handout that are given to board members. If we had any issues getting information from either the staff or gaining access to any of the staff members that we needed to talk to, we would have put that in this board handout and presented it straight to the board. But since we did not have any of those issues, this is just very standardized wording, and we recommend, you know, if you want to, keep it by your bedside. It's a great sleeping aid. The next thing I want to go over, we just have one recommendation, which you guys all have the recommendation letter as well?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Just one recommendation, and this just basically has to do with making sure that forms get logged into the right place. The federal program staff is aware of what needs to be done. And in fact, unfortunately, this program, almost every district has the same issue. And even though there is a new software system in place, unfortunately, the portion that we have to keep talking to people about is something that is not automatically transferred in the software from one form to another. So this is just something that every district has to work on, but I can tell you that the instances that we have noted for your district have decreased, so there is progress being made. But this is not anything having to do with money, it's just having to do with paperwork. Now, as far as your financial information, I'll go over the best page for you guys to look at to see where you are at is on page 8. And this is where you can see the total revenues that were collected, the total expenditures that were made. And if you look under the general fund, which is the fund that you have the most ability to influence, you'll see that not only were you able to keep your expenditures within your revenues, you were able to increase your fund balance last year. And that is so important because, especially, you know, with your district, you're limited on the types of businesses that are coming in, and there are more mandates that are coming out by the state every year that, you know, somewhere down the line you might find that those aren't going to be funded anymore. So it's very important not only to keep your fund balance where it's at, but to be able to maintain it. Now, one thing I would like to bring out, you know, financially you guys are in great shape right now. One thing that I really like about your district is when we come in and we make the most minute oral recommendation, we will come back the following year and see that it was immediately implemented. And that is something that really gives us confidence, not only in the administration, but also in the staff that is out at the sites. So anytime we can see that type of commitment to following the rules and regulations, it not only makes our job easier, but it just gives us more confidence in what is happening at your district. Do you guys have any questions for me? I mean, I can go over this further if you'd like me to.
In our finance meeting, when she said your audit looked great, that's all I needed to hear.
It does, because I'm serious. It honestly makes our heart glad when we come in and we see that things have been implemented. I mean, just a point of fact, the previous year we had recommended that you start doing reconciliations on your fundraisers. We come in this year and Carla has a huge 3-ring binder of all the reconciliations that have been done. So it's just great to see from an auditing standpoint.
Good. I don't have anything unless you guys covered it well in finance.
Yeah.
Tell her thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay, good luck with the rest of your meeting.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, great. We'll go back up to, since we got a good report on the audit report, I'm sure Robin had plenty of questions. She was there, right?
No.
Oh,
I was.
I mean, she was there.
Yeah, Pam came.
Yeah, Pam
Or
came,
on the
okay.
phone. She was on the phone with us.
Oh, she was on the phone then too? Okay. We'll go back to superintendent's report.
Okay, so as most of you know, we did get our final school report card, and that information came out last Thursday. So tonight I want to do an in-depth review on our school report card. So as you know, we have a new report card, and I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about the components and the scores of each school, and then I'm going to show you a demo of the school report card website where you can see some detailed information. So one component is academic achievement. That would have to be students scoring advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. If you remember, we used to have advanced, satisfactory, limited knowledge, and unsatisfactory. So we have some different components, still about the same components, just different names. And then we have the academic growth portion, students meeting individual growth targets, including from one proficiency level to another, like from proficient to advanced, or below basic to basic, or within low to high in the same proficiency level. So they may have been low basic in the previous year and then moved to high basic, and the school would have gotten growth points. ELPA progress, that's the English Language Proficiency Assessment progress. These are students passing the WIDA, the World Class Instructional Design Assessment, with a score of 4.8, and that's not the grade level. 4.8 is the score that students have to reach both in speaking and writing to exit the program, or meeting individual target growth per year. Students taking the WIDA are expected to exit the program within 5 years. And what the report card measures is progress or meeting the target or exiting the program within 1 year. And you can see that's an area in which we struggled, and I can tell you some things that we've done this year to prepare for next year that we're seeing some good results. Chronic absenteeism, students missing more than 10% of the student contact days. Last year we had 166 student contact days, so if students missed 16.7 days or more, they were considered chronically absent. Graduation rate, this is for high school only. And then post-secondary opportunities is also for high school only. These are students enrolled in AP courses, or who may take concurrent enrollment, or who are in technology courses that lead to industry certification. Like our students can get a CNA at Pioneer Technology. So that would be a post-secondary opportunity score. And here's how the calculations are. You get so many points. If you're in elementary school, your possible points are 90 points with an ELA subgroup of 10 or more. So if you have 10 students, you're going to get 90 points in the EL subgroup. And we had 3 sites that did that: Liberty, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. 75 for our sites who do not have an English language subgroup. They don't have 10 or more students who tested in that area who were EL students. That would be Garfield, Trout, Union, and Woodlands. And just to let you know, Garfield had 9 EL students, but they didn't have to get the 15 points. So one student can be the tipping point. As far as middle schools go, 90 with English language subgroup with science, 85 with English language subgroup without science, which is West Middle School, so they had to have 85 points, and then 75 points without English language subgroup with science. So East has a science test, but they didn't have 10 in their ELPA subgroup, so they had to have 75 points. And then without science or without an EL subgroup was 70, but we didn't have any sites. The high school, 75 with an English language subgroup, and that PO High was included in that, and then 60 without an English language subgroup. So here are the Oklahoma indicators for elementary and middle school. So if our sites that had to have 90 points, and we had 3 of our elementary sites, they got 15 possible points in English language arts, ELA, 15 in math, 5 in science, and then 30 total for academic growth in ELA, English language arts, and math. And ELPA is English language proficiency, was worth 15 points, and chronic absenteeism, 10 possible points. So you can see, and I'll show you just in a little bit, we may have had 80 kids test in academic growth, and they got the same number of points as 10 in the subgroup of ELPA. So for our high school, 90 points, English Language Arts 15, Math 15, Science 15, Graduation 10, ELPA 15, Chronic Absenteeism 10, and then Post-Secondary Opportunities. And the ESSA plan guidelines submitted by the OSDE to the United States Department of Ed had these requirements. The top 5% of schools will receive an A. The bottom 5% of schools will receive an F. And when we were under No Child Left Behind, up to 30% of our schools could receive an F and be an improvement. The remainder of schools will be divided into the B, C, and D range. And then our state also submitted that the majority of schools will receive a C. And there's been a lot of talk that the scores are not a bell curve, but I will show you some graphs that look pretty much like a bell curve. But 5% of the schools received an A, 5% received an F, and then everything else was that bell in the middle. So take a look at just our elementary report cards. The overall grade is the last column, and I'm going to break this down in a different chart here in a little bit. For the most part, overall, our elementary sites had a C. We had one site with a D, Liberty. They needed 19 points and had 17.26. And then Woodlands was our elementary site that received a B. They needed 75 points and received almost 48. If you'll look at our academic achievement, and I will show these to you in a chart form as well, Woodlands had our highest score with 25 of the 35 points, and Liberty had our lowest score with about 10 out of 35 points. As far as academic growth, that means moving up a level or moving from the low to the high end of the level, the proficiency level. Roosevelt had our highest score, so they needed a possible of 30 in academic growth and 22.78. And then our lowest area in academic growth was Liberty. They had 3.32 out of 30. One that I want to point out to you, and I'll show it to you on a different chart, is Garfield. It's one of our highest poverty schools, but they were right behind Roosevelt as far as academic growth. As far as English language proficiency assessment progress, we had 2 Ds and an F in our 3 elementary schools. And Lincoln and Roosevelt scored the same, so with a 2.68, and then Liberty got 0. So those schools all had at least 10 students test in that subgroup. As far as chronic absenteeism, Lincoln had our highest rate with a D at 3.23, and then Woodlands had our lowest rate of chronic absenteeism with 8.35. And then overall, we've already talked about those grades. All right, looking at our secondary report card, and the final column is the overall. We had a D at West Middle School and a B at East Middle School. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about this. As you can see, East did not have an ELPA group, ELPA group. West did have an ELPA group, and there were exactly 10 students in that group, and not one student made the progress that they needed, so 0 points, and that really hurt their overall grade. As far as academic achievement, you can kind of see where they are, a C and a B. Academic growth, a C and a B. And then East did not get penalized for not having the subgroup. And then in chronic absenteeism, they both received the same grade, but if you'll see in parentheses, when we were in the correction window before these were posted, Barbara noticed that on our school calendar, we had 166 days, but at West Middle School, they were only showing data for 163 days, so that 3 days that were missing. And Barbara looked for it and looked for it and looked for it. She contacted the state. They said it was our issue. She kept hounding and hounding. Let's say she kept conferring. She kept conferring with the state, and they admitted Friday that it was their error. The data was not pulled in from the wave, and they are not going to go back and change the report card, and we disagree with that. Why should our school get penalized? It would make them a C in chronic absenteeism, and it would change their overall grade just a little bit. They would be 0.11 short of a C based on chronic absenteeism. Or if we would have had one of the 10 students in the ELPA group make progress, they would have had a C overall. So they're right there just on the border. We already talked about East. As far as Pohai, their academic achievement was a C. ELPA was a C. Chronic absenteeism was an F. And I will tell you, at our secondary schools, a lot of our chronic absenteeism has to do with long-term suspensions, because those count now. If they're out, if they're on a 45-day suspension, then they are going to count as chronically absent. There's some legislation out there about using restorative practices rather than out-of-school suspension, and we've been talking about some ways to go back to restorative practices to keep our kids in school. Sometimes our kids just want to be suspended. So we're looking at different ways to combat chronic absenteeism. Our graduation rate was at 92% this year at the high school, so we had a B in graduation, and that has to do with tracking better at the high school, and then I believe our alternative program has a high rate of graduation, so that helps that overall graduation rate. Post-secondary opportunities, we had a C in overall, a C at the high school. This will just give you a different look at academic achievement as far as the elementary schools. The state proficiency at proficient and advanced was 52%, and we had Trout, Roosevelt, and Woodlands exceed that benchmark. With Union, Garfield, Liberty, and Lincoln falling short of the state average. As far as academic growth, the state average was 50% of students moved within a different proficiency level or either at the high-low level, and 4 of our schools highly exceeded the state. And you know, we use Renaissance, the STAR growth model, and we have those benchmarks monthly, and we can see that our students are growing. So we are happy to have this growth component of the report card. Trout and Woodland, and I'm going to go back one, their academic achievement were some of the highest, but if you think coming in, a lot of those students are at higher proficiency levels, and it's harder to grow from those higher proficiency levels, so there needs to be some enrichment. Liberty was 11% of the students moved, so we're really proud. And there you can see the Garfield growth. So number 1 was Roosevelt, Garfield, Lincoln, and then Union. So like our 3, well, Liberty's one of our highest poverty schools, but Garfield, Lincoln, and Roosevelt fall right in there, and I was pleased with their growth. They did a great job. English language proficiency, we talked about this. We are falling short. The average in the state was 33% of students meet their target goal or exit the program. We had 8% at Liberty, 20 at Lincoln, 20 at Roosevelt. And if you remember, these are the 17-18 report cards. And what we do is we have EL support people at our sites that have the groups, the subgroups, and basically they leaned on the teachers or the curriculum specialists at the elementary sites to give them guidance. Basically, we use their STAR testing, and then our EL support people would remediate based on that data. Then this past year, we started using a program called Imagine Learning, and we have seen a lot more success. So we expect that our ELPA scores will be much better for the next report card year. But it was this really spoke to our principals. You might have had 10 kids in a subgroup, and 15 of your report card points. So utilize that time wisely and make sure you're getting remediation to those kids who are ELPA. Barbara mentioned that the hardest part for our students is the speaking part. They speak into a microphone and it's really a struggle for them. And a lot of kids are just intimidated to speak into the microphone when English is their second language. But we expect to see great strides next year on that, so hold me to it. As far as chronic absenteeism, 86.51 kids in the state did not have a problem with chronic absenteeism. And you can see where our elementaries stacked up, with Woodlands with our highest percentage of students who did not have a chronic absenteeism problem, followed by Union and Garfield. Garfield, one of our highest poverty schools, and Trout, 92.12. And then we have Liberty, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. Lincoln is our highest poverty school, and I know Liz is sitting in here. You wouldn't believe that all they do to promote attendance in school. I mean, they do bike drawings and prizes and spin the wheel, and they do all kinds of different things. And you know what? If you didn't do all that, you might not have that. Yeah, so they really work hard at attendance. It's a big focus for Lincoln. They talk about it always in her memo every week, at all of her staff meetings. Okay, now as far as our overall grade, I don't know what happened there. It's got value, I guess, when I moved it here. The state average was a 55C. Trout met the state average, and probably when I moved from this computer to my computer, it left my value. So it looks like that Garfield had a little bit higher of a C than Trout. Liberty had a D. Lincoln had a C with 41. Roosevelt and Garfield were about the same, and then Union had a C, and it was just lower than Trout. So I can't remember these numbers off the top of my head, but changed over when I changed computers. With Woodlands, a 64 equal a B. So that's where our elementary schools stacked up. Here's West Middle School. When we talked about that chronic absenteeism, let's move to it first. It should not be 84.17. It should be 85.27. It would still have fallen a little bit short of the state average. The black bar's the state average, and you can see the real downfall were these 10 students. They tested 639 students, so there were 639 scores for these 15 and these 15, and then 10 students for those 15 points. So it's an eye-opener. Chronic absenteeism should be a little higher, so should the overall grade because of chronic absenteeism, but not enough to push them to a D. They had a C overall, a D overall, not enough to push them to a C. They were 0.11 points shy of a C. Here's East Middle School. The black bar represents the state average. Academic achievement, way above the state. Academic growth, way above the state. Chronic absenteeism, below the state average. And again, we're really going to talk tomorrow. We have Ad Council, and then we'll have our secondary principal PLC on Wednesday. We'll talk about restorative practices rather than just long-term suspension, and that will help in chronic absenteeism, which will in turn help their overall grade. And East had a 62, which was a C. Ponca City High School, academic achievement, they had a C across the board, and I'll have to go back, I didn't put the letter grade on these. Graduation was way above the state average with a 92%. ELPA, again, hurt us at the high school. Chronic absenteeism is an issue, again, because of long-term suspensions. And, you know, we've talked about this. There are some things you just have to do the right thing. You can't worry about your report card. If a student needs to be suspended, they're suspended. Post-secondary opportunities, we outperformed the state, and the overall grade was a C with a 48. So I wanted to show you how we compared to area schools, and I know we're the largest school in the area, so the first column would happen to be our elementary schools, and here's Ponca City. Average of all 7 of our tested scores were a C. Blackwell probably was the they did outperform us. They had a C, we had a C, they had a B with no EL, that's ELPA score, English Language Proficiency scores. Kildare had a B, but they didn't have that 15-point subgroup. McCord, Newkirk, and Peckham all had a C with no EL. Scheidler had an F, and they did not meet 95% participation. And
wow.
Just to point out, there's some legislation about that 4-day week and the 5-day week. Scheidler is a 4-day week, and one of the arguments happens to be that their kids are there more. They didn't have 95% to test. Now, it used to be under No Child Left Behind that was an automatic F, and we are still waiting to hear what the penalty is. There is a penalty, but we don't know what it is with ESSA, the Every Student Succeed Act. Tonkawa had a B at the elementary. They had no EL. Woodland is another one. Fairfax, over at Fairfax. They had no EL. They had a D, and their chronic absenteeism was an F. And they're a 4-day week, and that's one of the things that they're saying they have higher attendance rates, but not according to the report card. As far as our area middle schools, Ponca City average was a C. Scheidler outperformed us. They had a B with no EL, so they didn't have those 15 points to deal with. Blackwell and Newkirk both had a C with no EL, so we really didn't have anybody apples to apples to compare to. Elementary schools, Ponca City and Blackwell were apples to apples. As far as area high schools, we really didn't have anybody in our area. Of course, we lost Peckham, Scheidler, not Scheidler, Peckham, McCord, Kildare, because they don't have a high school. We had a C, and everybody else had a C, a D. Woodland had a B with no EL subgroup. So a D, and a B. So you can see the progress from the area schools. Okay, so after that, I wanted to do similar size schools and similar demographic overall grades. As far as elementary schools, I compared Enid, Ponca City, Sapulpa, Sand Springs, and Shawnee. And truthfully, Enid's grade came out to a C on the average, but I say they outperformed us because theirs was a 3.2 on a 4-point scale, and ours was a 3.0. They had 1A, 4 Bs, 3 Cs, 3 Ds, and you know what we had, 1 B, 5 Cs, 1 D. Sapulpa had 2 Bs and 2 Ds, so a straight 3.0. Sand Springs had 1 B, 2 Cs, no, 1 B, 3 Cs, and 2 Ds. And then Shawnee had 3 Cs and a D at their middle schools. As far as middle schools with similar demographics, Enid scored below us with a D, 1 C, and 2 Ds for their 3 middle schools. Sapulpa had 2 Cs. Sand Springs had 2 Cs, but they have a 9th grade center. They have no grade, no overall grade, because there was no tests in 9th grade, but all their other indicators were a C. And then Shawnee only had 1 middle school, and they had 1 D. As far as our high schools, pretty much stacked up all the way across the board. Sapulpa does go 5 days a week, but they did not meet 95% participation, and we don't know what the accountability measure is when you don't meet it. So, and we're trying to find out from the state and haven't gotten anything, and nothing in the documentations. Now, there's also going to be another component of the schools, and it's called well-rounded schools, and these are programs of excellence. And basically, we can get levels of distinction for different programs and for having safe and healthy schools. So this school year, they're just now developing and revising the rubrics. So there are no distinctions in programs of excellence visible yet. In 2019, 2020, there will be a pilot, and they'll revise the rubrics as needed. And then 2021, the school district distinctions will be visible on the report card. And schools can get distinctions in fine arts based on the number of your programs, the number of competitions, the ratings they received in competitions, mathematics, science, social studies and civics, world languages, safe and healthy schools. So I want to show you, before we go to questions, I want to show you a demo of the Oklahoma Schools website, if it pulls right up, and it will. And what I'm going to show you is Ponca City West. You can type in any school, or you can scroll down, and you can find schools by the county. So that's what I did on our area schools. I just clicked on our county and then went to all of those. So let's go to Ponca City West. And then you can see the programs of excellence. And when this becomes visible, there will be a little bronze, silver, or gold icon in front of each one of those programs that are eligible. Related programs, at West, we have a fine arts program, and that is indicated. So if we look at academic achievement, here's the school and here's the state, but here's some interesting information if you want more details in regard to academic achievement. So you can see there's Ponca City West Middle School, our district overall with academic achievement, and that is all of our sites that were tested, and then the state average. And then you can see where they fall in the bell curve that's not a bell curve. So Ponca City West is right in the middle of that. Then you can see student demographics. You can see exactly how many assessments were taken, 639. It will tell you the population in each race and the indicator score. It can tell you students with disabilities. There were 639 tests, and 15.6 of those were students with disabilities, 15.6%. Here's a good chart, the English learners at West. Okay, 639 assessments, and you can see that our population was 3.3%, and we got no points for that. So if we go back to our other groups, 639 tests, and we got the same number of points. So that's one where we're going to get those 15 points next year. You can go on down and see another chart, student performance by target. It's broken down in the races at West Middle School. So our American Indians that met target, met target advanced, met target proficient, or that were below target, which would be basic or below basic. Economically disadvantaged, students with disability, 2 or more ethnicities, and then just our white students. So it tells you this, the dark blue is advanced, the light blue, is that light blue? It looks kind of light blue, is proficient, and then either basic or below basic in the gray area down below. And then you can look at it another way. American Indians, advanced, 18%, proficient, 18%, 45% basic, and 18% below basic, if you want to look at that. And that gives us some indication on some different things too. Some things to strive. I think the information we gleaned from the report was really good. I want to show you just the academic growth too. We're still in West Middle School. Okay, there we are on the bell curve. That's not a bell curve, right in the middle. And you can see, it's hard to see, but it definitely looks like a bell. Same thing. If we scroll on down to look at our academic growth rate, so if there's an equal sign, that means they stayed at the same proficiency level. So that box I just clicked on, 46 of 1,221 students recorded at advanced low scored the same this year as last year. So this 33 of 1,221 students, okay, that's double test, math and ELA. went from proficient high down to basic high. So we lost points there. If there's a plus, that means we gained points. 51 of 1221 students went from basic high up to proficient low, so they moved to the next subgroup. So we even had one student that went from basic low all the way up to advanced low. Either they made some great gains or they had a bad testing year the year before. So that gives you quite a bit of information if you want to break that down further. And as far as other information, I'm going to show you chronic absenteeism. You know what the ELPA score is at West, but chronic absenteeism, it will tell you exactly where we are compared to the district and the state, our student demographics, but there's one more chart down below here. This will tell you, or you can view below to see the percentage of students in good attendance compared with the percentage of students chronically absent. So our percentage of Hispanic students, and we found this at several sites that had a subgroup with Hispanic students, I mean their attendance was best overall. And you can see the actual percentage of each. This is economically disadvantaged, or EL, Hispanic, students with disability, 2 or more ethnicities, and white. So there's a lot of information that we can use as a district to continue our growth and progress. I just hope cut scores and things don't change. We need a target that doesn't move. We know what we need to work on, and I think our scores would be a lot different. They will be a lot different with our improvement that we're seeing with our ELPA group. So, any questions for me as far as our school report card?
Sure, you know, I'm gonna at least have one.
Okay.
This is all good data, but what it basically shows is Liberty's got some real problems.
You're right.
I mean, so what I don't see is, what's the plan to correct Liberty? I know, no offense, Liz, but years ago, Lincoln was kind of that way, and things have turned around, and Lincoln's got a lot better. So, I mean, Liberty was just about red in every category.
We've taken some measures over there, and we think that things will improve. I will say, and I've told you all this before, the teacher is the greatest indicator of academic success. Last year, was it 5th grade that we had a teacher leave in the middle of the year? And this year, we had a 4th grade teacher leave in the middle of the year. We've had some hiring issues at Liberty, to say the least. The number 2 indicator happens to be the skills of the principal. There have been a lot of improvements, and she knows her data. Jennifer Martinez is our principal there. She knows our data, and she's done a lot to take some measures, but I was a little concerned that we lost a teacher at midterm. We did place a teacher, and we were a little concerned about placing a teacher who's doing a wonderful job. And Mr. Layton's been in her room, and I've been in her room, and Ms. Vogel's been in her room, and I think the CSI, which is Chelsea Swearingen, provides her a lot of support, as well as Ms. Martinez too.
Do we have more new teachers there, inexperienced, or younger teachers than any of the other schools?
Inexperienced?
Not necessarily in any of the schools, but there are quite a few.
I mean, over the last 8 years, we've seen Roosevelt improve, we've seen Lincoln improve. I mean, improvement can be done.
You're right.
But, boy, Liberty was pretty disappointing looking at those numbers.
And especially in the growth. Typically, our students that start lower show growth. And you notice that Trout or Woodland didn't, they were up here to start with in their academic growth, and it's hard to raise. So we're a little disappointed in the growth.
Well, I kind of look at growth kind of like a tractor pull. The farther you go down, the harder it gets. If you start off high, it's that much harder to scoot on up a little higher. But I don't know, Liberty's a concern. I'm sorry, but it is.
Agreed. We're working on some things, and we were a little disheartened that we had a teacher leave at midterm, and it was a testing grade. So we're gonna look at staffing really closely for Liberty and move our stronger candidates in those open positions. So for next year.
But overall, this is a good database. I've played in it and looked around until I
A
got
lot of good
lost.
stuff in there.
Huh?
A lot of good things.
It is. It's got a lot of information.
Hey, we've learned a lot just since last Thursday. You know, and our principals really have too, and they knew since the beginning that that EL subgroup was going to be worth 15 points, but until it hit them, and they had no one make the growth, so.
We'll find out more next year because hopefully it'll be the same.
Oh, every year we change it all over again, and then nobody has to
Nobody
be
knows.
responsible.
Hopefully it will be the same.
Yeah.
Well, they'll probably change something.
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They're not too what they, in the past 5 years.
I thought it was disappointing that Hoffmeister came out the same day this came out and said, yes, but it still has a lot of ways to go. It needs improvement. I mean, I thought that was disappointing.
It's hard, it's hard when.
I don't know why they need
They
to.
spent 2
She
years
should be
putting it
disappointed.
together.
She's the one who developed it. She should be the one to take.
Exactly
take
right.
things.
2 years later,
You know, we
the
always,
day she
she always
announces
thinks
it.
it's wonderful, but it's her fault. She's
Yeah.
the one who developed it, or she's
Had her
in
big
charge
committee
of
together.
it. Somebody needs to be on her, not,
That's right.
Hey.
The way it was presented 3 years ago it looks different now from the time that it initially was presented to all of us, is the control gap. So chronic absenteeism is supposed to help us, it's not supposed to, there's no mention of it, not bell curve, but anyway, there's supposed to be a point total, so there was a mark, you met the mark and you didn't. It wasn't going to be, well, 5% nil, 5% off, but the rest was just going to be there. So when this first rolled out, it looks a lot different now. Do you all agree? Yes.
And what we found is when we're analyzing our chronic absenteeism, it's still 94% like it was. So really, it's no change. If they didn't hit 94, they didn't hit the target. So now, what I do is I like the growth. I do like the growth, and I think we can all agree on that. We need some equity in our points, you know, based on our number of students. Hey, just giving us some goals, and we've already been working on some this year because we knew we weren't seeing progress with our ELPA group last year. So, have you had some exit the program already?
Well, we're just at the end of the testing window, so I won't know that.
Okay, when's the testing window over? So we'll know pretty much.
It's over May the 22nd.
I'm sorry, March the 22nd. March the 22nd, yes. Any other questions?
No, I just make a comment. You know, I taught for 33 years. I've been out for 17. Absenteeism has been the problem for the 50 years. I mean, before that. I don't know how you correct that. Because I know Lincoln does a lot. We did a lot.
Again, it's a struggle at the secondary schools, and we've talked about some of the different ideas that I'll share with you in committee is in regard to long-term suspension. But there are just some times that a student needs to be suspended long-term.
That's right.
So without a shadow of a doubt. But it's sad that we're penalized for
Yeah.
that.
You can do like Oklahoma City Public Schools did. They told their principals, cut back on your disciplinary actions because our attendance is so low. About a year ago, that was the edict that came out down there. That's one way to get your attendance up. So discipline must be strong.
I encourage you too to go on
Not
and
the
look
lower
at
level.
our online charter schools, their grades. Their chronic absenteeism rates are fabulous because it's based on how many times they log in. Everything else is, just take a look at it. I would encourage you to do that. You can look at the online elementary, middle, and high school.
all they gotta do is turn the computer on, click on.
Not even be awake
So
by itself.
we need some equity there.
Sure, their
And you
parents
know
are
there's
doing
some
it. Yes, we do.
legislation out there on
Yes.
requirements and standards as far as online charters.
Yes.
I just really think that a lot of parents don't realize what being absent means. They just like kindergarten, we discuss this all the time. They just don't get it. You know, they can sleep in, they'll go in tomorrow, make up their work, teacher works extra for them, they're okay with it. But it's a,
Well, I agree. The Hispanic kids that I had at Lincoln, they were always there. Their parents are concerned about school. The first thing they always said at a conference is he being a good boy? And how's he I mean, you knew that those kids were gonna be at school. If they missed, they were really sick, because they were there. And so
those
that doesn't really
testing, when
surprise me.
you're speaking of Hispanic, that test is really, really hard. Yeah, it's really hard, so it's not, I mean, it's a struggle, so it's
Yes.
it's a hard 15 points to get.
Thank you. Next item will be consent agenda. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, we talked about these items. I'll move to approve 6
Thank you, Robin. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Second from Nancy. Any other discussion? None, roll call, please.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Item passed, thank you. Next item will be 7.1, consideration to vote to considering take action on the following district's financial reports. I'm hoping you had a very good discussion with me not being there, so I'm sure you talked really.
We talked about you a lot, too.
I'm sure you did. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there, but
I'll move to approve 7.1.
thank you, Robin. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Judy. Any other discussion? None, roll call.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop? Aye. Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye. Motion passed. Next item will be 7.2, consider and take action on receiving the audit report from Wilson, Dodson and Associates auditing firm. Sounded like it was a good audit. I haven't had a chance to read through it since I just saw it. I'll get through it next couple of days, but it looks like a normal, other than those, I was kind of worried about that one part that,
Well, those are reports that not much we can do about the way the software is written.
Pulling over the data. You hate to be penalized. It's kind of how
Yeah.
we were on our
that's the way it is,
days.
everything's data.
So I'll move to approve 7.2.
Thank you, Robin. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you, David. Second from David. Any other discussion on the audit report? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Motion passed. Next item will be 7.3, consider and take action on ratification of the AIA contract to employ construction manager for Rick Scott Construction Company on ongoing projects. Do you have a motion to approve this item?
I'll make a motion to approve 7.3.
Thank you, Judy. How about a second?
I will second it.
Second from Nancy. Any other discussion? Oh, one thing I do have on the, we're just doing the ag buildings and stuff ourselves, taking care of that. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're helping,
We have
okay.
our
That's what I
architect
thought,
is
but I wanted to
doing
make
the
sure.
work, But yes.
Okay, that's fine. Roll call.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Motion passed, thank you. Next item will be 7.4, consider and take action to accept the bids for the North Sullins fencing project in the amount of $146,783.
Don, in your absence from the property committee, we had agreed to $220,000, so that gives you about $60,000,
Okay.
$80,000 there.
I heard it was down.
Savings.
It
So I get
was
to
down.
spend, so I got something
That
placed out.
was
Don't
just
worry
an
about it.
estimate.
I've already got it.
But
taken
we'd
care of.
agreed to 220 with you not there, so now you've got a lot of money to play with.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Yeah,
Go crazy.
yeah, we didn't agree.
Manager fee to go on top of it.
Right.
Okay.
But that's only 6%.
Percent.
That's
but
only
yeah.
6%.
We didn't agree to the
But
220.
you still got money, Don.
I know. I got a place for it. Do I have a motion to approve it? Thank you, David.
And I will second it.
Second from Nancy. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you all. Next item will be 7.5, consider and take action to accept the bids for the Boag Farm renovations in the amount of $212,300.
That was lower than the estimate as well.
There's more money, Don.
that was never out there, but it was just an estimate.
We needed to do this, y'all.
It needed to be done in 2010.
Yeah,
So I'll move to approve 7.5.
I'll second. A good program.
motion from Robin and a second from Judy for 7.5. No other discussion, roll call.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop? Aye. Mrs. Zimmershed? Aye. Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
I was glad we did this. It's something we need to do for a long time.
It needed some work, without a shadow of
Yeah.
a doubt.
We'll probably have some more work to do for the next bond issue out there, too. We need to remember to, probably some more items we're going to have to carry on with.
We
and-
talked about planning for 21,
Yeah, we
22
need
today.
a real driveway and some stuff for that facility. We need to, because those kids are doing a great job out there.
He has like 163 students.
Yeah. We used to have 40.
And there's more than that assigned up
Wasn't very
for
many
it, preliminary
years
for next
back,
year.
if I remember right, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had 2 teachers.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it dropped for a little while, and all of a sudden it's come back up again, and I don't know if it's just the stuff out there or what, I don't know.
It's the teacher, I can tell
Yeah, well, I
you.
know it is. It's just getting the kids to come out and do it. They do a great job.
And you know, we've had some kids that it's typically not their genre for an activity that have gone out and been successful, and other kids have seen that. You know, it's not your typical ag student. So that's really drawn a lot of, you know, we have high steppers, we have student council members, we have football players, you name it. We have people that aren't involved in anything except ag. And here's another thing that I want to say, Mr. Frazier, I always call him Frazier. Mr. Frazier is at any event I am. If he has a kid that's in an event, he is there.
That's a great program. Glad we have it.
Yeah, for the record, it is our #1 elective.
Right
And
next to band.
It's pushing 200 potential people next year wanting it. That's impressive.
Great. Next item will be 7.6, consider and take action on the adoption of the revised policies and procedures for the post-issue tax compliance procedures for tax-exempt bonds.
Hey, I can't do near the job Ron did explaining that, but the Municipal Securities Board made some changes, and this is a requirement that we will play by the new policies and procedures. It's all just new rules that they wrote that we have to play by in the issuance of a bond.
This is something we didn't have for the previous, for that meeting, or was it something?
No,
that
he
came in?
brought the policies, and they're actually in your handout. It's basically, we have to list any lease agreement that we have. It just has to be noted and.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is we couldn't get it on the agenda because we didn't know about it at that time.
Yeah, at that
During-
time.
at that meeting.
So that's why we pushed it to
added
this.
this
Bring it
one
up.
on that last bond sale.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
on our special.
That morning, okay. That's what I figured it was. All right.
Move
Yeah,
to
motion to
approve.
approve, please.
Move to approve 7.6.
Okay, thank you. Judy. Seconded. Roll call. I'm losing
Mr.
it.
Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop? Aye. Mrs.
Aye, so
Zimmershed?
boring now.
Aye. Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye. I'll get together here. Get you cranked up. Next item will be 7.7, motion to vote to convene an executive session for the following purpose: to discuss the possible termination, reassignment, resignation, and the employment of personnel on the attached detailed personnel report, to discuss the employment of executive directors and directors, or to discuss negotiations, and to discuss confidential conversations with the board's attorney concerning pending claims and litigation. And we do need to go into executive session, so need a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Robin.
Executive session.
How about a second? Nancy? Roll call.
Mrs. Troop? Aye. Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Motion passed, thank you.
Yeah, the TV.
Let's return to open session. Minutes of executive session were kept by the board's minute clerk and will remain confidential. Next item will be 7.10, consider and take action on renewal of the following administrative contracts for the 2019-2020 school year.
Move to approve 7.10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, roll call.
Mrs. Zimmershed?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye. Motion passed. Thank you. Next item will be 7.1, consider and take action on the recommendations for termination, reassignment, resignation, and employment of personnel. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Judy. Second by David, or by Robin. Any other discussion? If none, roll call.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop? Mrs. Zimmershed?
Motion passed. Thank you. No new business that I'm aware of. Right?
No new business.
About a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks, Robin. Second from
Let's-
Nancy.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.